Welcome back to the recap. This is part 2 of the recap for Release That Witch. Part 3 is already available on my Boosty account. Please enjoy the show. We continue right from the moment when Carl shared details of his life in Border Town, dating back to the days when he escaped Grey Castle and opened his school, and how another one of his students also became a witch. Finally, a little awkwardly, he started to beg His Highness to also accept Nana Payne into his palace as a concubine, just like Anna asserting that she is a quite charming young lady. The prince joyfully gives the teacher the green light, allowing him to bring her here, promising him that she will not be harmed in any way, should she truly turn out to be a witch. However, he cannot simply take her from her family, especially since her family is not currently threatening her, as they are unaware of her unique powers. Our young prince also revealed the true reason for saving this very first witch, and it's not at all for the reasons that Carl had imagined within himself. Our protagonist was overjoyed, eagerly anticipating a meeting with this youthful sorceress and to learn of her formidable abilities. Though outwardly he remained calm and completely unperturbed. Next, the Lord clarifies his position, that he did not save the girl out of pure kindness, but rather because he needs her invaluable help. He does not believe in these crazy superstitious tales, where a witch's powers are depicted as inherently evil, but rather sees them as a valuable gift, and will, of course, treat them wisely and use them with great responsibility. So whether it is Anna, Nana, or any other witch they encounter, as long as they do not break any of his laws, he will not execute them without reason. Following this, Roland gets right down to business, and inquires of the man if he had previously taken part in the construction of Grey Castle's Great Wall. The teacher enthusiastically nods his head, assuring him that he has plenty of experience. That is good news indeed. The prince announces his plan for building a large fence, starting from the river itself. From the scaled territories to the northern slopes base, the mission's goal is crystal clear: to repel the relentless invasion of fearsome demonic beasts. From this moment forward, this project falls to him alone. In the very next scene we encounter, we find ourselves in the vibrant palace garden of the border town, where Nana finally pays our hero a much-anticipated visit. Upon seeing her for the very first time, he instantly realizes he was truly forced to admit the power, that a witch's power not only granted them magic abilities, to wield powerful magic and more, to some extent altering their appearance, and even their overall temperament. This girl and Anna were very different indeed, but both possessed an utterly unique charm. This unique feeling had absolutely nothing to do with age, and it also did not relate to their outward appearance. Even when one was in prison facing a death sentence, the incredible radiance that simply emanated from her still continued to amaze him. The prince tirelessly sifted through all his memories, whether she was a noble lady of the highest breeding, or a simple resident from Grey Castle itself. None of them truly exuded such a compelling aura. If he tried to describe this sensation somehow, compared to other women, it seemed as though the sorceresses were vivid flowers in a stark black and white photo. But now, let's quickly return to Nana herself. At first glance, she seems a little bit agitated, trembling and awkwardly fiddling with her fingers, before finally managing to ask, "Will I die now, Mila?" Introducing himself, Mila then replied, "No, you truly will not die, just look and see. Anna is alive and perfectly well." The young girl immediately livens right up. When she hears she will not be executed, she quickly says her own name, and then runs straight towards her dearest friend, starting to eagerly chatter with her, not caring, completely ignoring the presence of His Highness Roland himself. Naturally, Roland was not at all bothered by that a mere 14-year-old child had utterly ignored him. Instead, he leaned on the table and poured himself a calming drink, silently observing both of them, while Nana excitedly chirped over 10 sentences. Anna, however, was noticeably far calmer, only uttering a single word. One might surely say this. Wow, even though she's just 17. She already gives off such a strong big sister aura. The little brother couldn't help but ponder. When she finally grows up, I wonder just how stunning she'll be. After the young girl settled down a little, he cleared his throat, opened his mouth, and then inquired, "Miss Payne, I heard from your esteemed teacher that you have awakened as a powerful witch." In stark contrast to the overwhelming majority of folks, who would naturally use the word fallen regarding the process of becoming a witch, Roland preferred the term awakening instead. He naturally, of course, was certainly not so naive to ever think that all sorceresses were flawlessly pure. No. Someone who was already a truly malicious individual could only create even greater havoc and destruction. It's much like a weapon, you see, can be wielded for violence, or it can be used to stop it. The main thing is the person themselves, who happens to be holding it, perhaps. The Church's intense propaganda regarding devastating mass murders caused by powerful sorceresses might have been based on certain facts, but using this as definitive proof that the entirety of the witch community was guilty of that heinous crime was truly the greatest injustice. Nana's face once again tightened with worry. She softly whispered, "Are you going to hang me now?" The young man quickly responded that only true criminals are ever sent to their execution, and certainly not innocent people like her. She truly should not worry, because she is not a bad person at all. The young girl then remarked. Her teacher had told her before that witches gain their powers only after they were tempted and swayed by the devil. But she had never seen any demons before. The blue-eyed man reassuringly stroked her head, comforting her. And our brave hero then inquired, "When did you first notice anything? That something was truly amiss?" "About a week ago," Nana softly mumbled. "She saw a tiny bird with a broken leg, and she decided to try and help it. And suddenly she felt something flowing from her hand. Then that water unexpectedly surrounded the small creature, after which its paw healed." After hearing her story, the prince ordered Carter to immediately bring a chicken, while the knight went off to find a suitable animal. Our brother began to think. Her awakened power seemed inclined toward healing, which honestly wasn't bad at all. Without antibiotics, in a medieval medical system, people with injuries and infections would likely face death depending on their age. Such rapid healing was almost equivalent to saving countless lives. This ability, of course, was very limited in advancing overall civilization, but it carried incredible value for every individual life. Right now, if what she said was true, then he could use this as a starting point to change Border Town's perception of witches and put an end to the current ruthless persecution. Then Roland asked Payne, "You can heal small animals, so why do you think your power is evil?" She nodded, adding that their teacher told them witches could do things ordinary people couldn't, and sometimes it might look harmless, but it was only a trap. set by the devil to lure more people. After falling silent for a few seconds, the green-eyed girl swore that she truly hadn't made any contracts with otherworldly forces. The hero immediately believed her and gently patted her head, reminding her that the church deceived everyone with its stories, and even their teacher had fallen for the lies. The girl asked, "But why lie? What's the point?" Roland shook his head, offering no explanation, because even if he tried, they simply wouldn't understand. Not until civilization reached a certain stage. Such strange events would always surface. And even when no one truly benefited, people automatically claimed that natural disasters, industrial catastrophes, or other unexplained phenomena were controlled by someone hidden behind the scenes. From a historical perspective, this was a massive burden that most women were forced to carry. And in this world, witches, who possessed real power, of unknown origin, became easy targets for the church. Thinking about it, it was absolutely impossible for the priests to simply ignore such people. They could either canonize these witches as saints, calling their power divine miracles, or destroy them all, branding them as agents of the devil on earth. But if they chose the first option, the authority of monotheism would suffer a heavy blow, the moment even a single witch rejected the church. So witches were oppressed purely for selfish gain. Soon the night brought in a live chicken, holding it by the wings, while it still flapped and clucked in confusion. Nana, completely shocked, begged the prince to be gentle. He agreed, but immediately ordered Carter to hold it firmly. What happened next filled Payne with absolute horror. Roland pulled a silver knife from his belt, and the blond man grabbed the chicken, so he could strike easily. In the very next moment, the poor animal writhed in pain and collapsed to the ground. Then the prince turned to the young girl and asked her to heal the little chicken as quickly as possible. She nodded and softly said she would do everything she could within her power. When the green-eyed girl placed her hand on it, healing droplets of water appeared from nowhere again, completely sealing the fresh wounds instantly. And they repeated this process for several hours, until the crested chicken finally breathed its last. Only then did Roland begin to understand Nana's incredible ability. She could restore damaged body parts, including cuts, gashes, and torn flesh, fractures, ruptures, and nasty bruises. However, if a body part was completely missing, such as a severed chicken leg, she couldn't magically grow a new one. But if she focused her power on a freshly severed limb, could fully reattach and heal. Still, there was a limit. Nana could not bring a body back to life after death. Once the chicken died, her magic had absolutely no effect on it. Throughout this intense series of tests, Nana's physical strain was surprisingly minimal. She didn't even sweat like Anna did during her training. Nana herself was quite unhappy. She strongly felt that experimenting on animals was completely unethical, to the point that she stared at Roland and puffed her cheeks in frustration. Having no better option, he offered her afternoon tea to distract her from the grim reality. This same method had already worked wonders on the first witch princess. The prince correctly assumed that few young ladies could resist the tempting charm of sweet desserts. And of course, the green-eyed girl's reaction to the pastries was exactly the same as her older sister's. She instantly forgot about the poor little chicken. After their delightful little feast, the girl left, saying goodbye one last time, and the handsome guy waved back. Meanwhile, blue-eyed Anna became deeply curious. Why Roland didn't keep Nana inside the palace, even knowing she was also a powerful witch. He gently reminded her that Nana still had her family, who currently knew nothing about her incredible magic. But Anna worried deeply that it was only a matter of time before her parents discovered her powers and cruelly cast out their own blood. He gives his full assent, although he makes a firm assurance that while her incredible abilities remain shrouded in secrecy, she must truly cherish this precious time she spends with her loving parents. And then he asks if the witch herself misses her father. She shakes her head with a firm no. No trace of hesitation could be seen in her clear eyes. It seemed that her father's cruel betrayal had completely shattered the girl's hope, and now she had no family at all to whom she could possibly return. And just as a friend finally seemed to appear, she quickly left again. To comfort the long-haired Nana, Roland tells her, Nana will be coming here quite often now. In fact, he truly wishes that she would appear here every single day, for the sake of developing her incredible magical abilities. And then he also asks her, do you want to return to college, at Carla College, and study with other children? Am I not right? Anna does not reply, but he distinctly feels that he has managed to grasp her deepest, most cherished thoughts. And so he passionately continues, these current difficult circumstances will hardly last for long. As long as I am here, because one beautiful day, you will truly be able to live just like any normal person, and there will be absolutely no one who could ever dare to arrest you, and especially send you to the cruel gallows. This will become a stunning reality one glorious day. Roland emphatically says, emphasizing his every powerful word. He guarantees it personally. This will absolutely certainly come to pass. Let's fast forward a bit through time. Since Carla took on the massive city wall project, Roland, the fourth prince, suddenly felt an unusual boredom from his sudden abundance of free time. He spent every single day relaxing in the castle garden, in the delightful company of his little witches, while sipping on some wonderfully delicious tea. The captivating sight of how the two young girls would come and stroll around his courtyard truly relaxed him and soothed his mind. Sometimes Roland would also visit the northern slope of the mountain to personally check on the construction progress. After more than 2 busy weeks of work, the wall was already stretching out to about 100 meters. Overall, things seemed to be going quite well for them. But then the royal advisor makes his appearance, bringing not the most pleasant tidings to the Lord. He reports that hiring all these masters and workers has been incredibly expensive indeed, and all of that money is draining directly from our hero's own pocket. If this relentless spending continues on at this pace, the royal treasury will not last until the upcoming spring. Bhairav explained and presented the expense report to the Lord. Our hero's boredom vanished in an instant, as he began to panic furiously, realizing he was in a truly deep mess. And just a moment later he was already furiously calculating how to escape from this dire financial predicament. The old man finds it incredibly strange, the powerful changes in the brunette lately. It is as if he has transformed into a completely different person. Back in Greycastle, the fourth Prince Roland always did exactly what he desired, completely unafraid of anything. And his terrible reputation was known by every single person. Although, to be fair, he never committed any truly major blunders. However, there were more than enough petty issues when compared to his numerous brothers and his sisters. His position within the family was vastly different. That is why when the king dispatched Barav, along with Roland, to this desolate border town, he was incredibly dismayed and quite upset. And if His Majesty had not promised him a position as the prestigious Minister of Finance, he would have already abandoned this place long ago. Upon their arrival in the borderlands, the previous owner of the body displayed childish behavior for the first 2 months. Time and time again he openly insulted the local nobility, and not to mention the fierce struggle for the royal throne. He did not even wish to properly govern this territory. All of the responsibility was instead dumped onto the bald guy. So the prince displayed absolutely no ambition whatsoever. But ever since saving that which, something within him, has dramatically changed, the advisor mused to himself. The hero now approaches matters with much more thoughtful consideration, and he even deals with critical problems personally. Right now, he was still furiously brainstorming various options on how to swiftly resolve this pressing money problem. The brunette even converses like a grown adult now, a thought that genuinely frightens the old man, and he starts to seriously wonder and think, if Roland isn't possibly possessed by a demon or something of that nature. Barav quickly dismisses the idea, utterly convinced that if the prince was truly possessed, he wouldn't have dared to touch a holy medallion. And honestly, who the heck would even want his body? If some powerful entity, a devil, can possess a human, why would it choose someone like him, when there are others, like for instance, the king himself or even the church's pope? In short, our Barav truly cannot comprehend what exactly is happening to him. But at the very least, this bizarre behavior has certainly piqued his interest. Meanwhile, elsewhere, a nobleman stepped off a ship onto the pier of a border town, alongside his ever-present assistant, as they exchanged a few quick words. "What a truly rotten place this is," remarked the man Petrov, as they disembarked from the ship. The pungent stench of rotting wood assaulted his nose. The young man in glasses gently reminded him that they last sailed to this very spot a year ago, and noted that this impoverished settlement truly has nothing, except for rocks, but the redhead quickly corrected him. Actually, it's been a year and a half already, he clarified, that every single season the Duke from Longsong Fortress selects someone for a thorough inspection, to thoroughly tour these lands, and he himself was chosen the summer before last. The man further went on to explain, besides valuable ore, they boast a huge variety of furs. And then, he abruptly fell silent for some reason. "What is it?" asked the keen assistant, noticing his boss's distant, preoccupied expression. But Petrov simply shook his head and offered no reply. Having now put some distance between themselves and the pier, he began to explain. What's even more crucially important is the sheer amount of land available here. All of it completely uncultivated. A new outpost could easily be established here, if only they would take responsibility for creating a strong new defensive line, and also for the extensive development of this land. Then, potentially, all of this land could be seamlessly included into the fortress's territory, a move from which absolutely everyone would benefit. But alas, unfortunately, no one seems willing to actually take it on, since this project demands huge investments. And what is most unfortunate, it is a long-term one. Such an ambitious plan will require at least 5 years of dedicated work. Suddenly, the man in glasses loses his temper completely, pointing out fiercely that there are absolutely no supplies available. They were clearly informed, that they would arrive very soon indeed. Why is the ore still unprepared, Petrov? Petrov sighed quietly and said, "All right then. Let us go to the castle and speak with the prince now. As you have probably already guessed by now, these guys are from that very fortress that keeps scamming the residents of the border town, taking massive amounts of valuable minerals from them in exchange for just a tiny bit of meager food." While they ride along swiftly, the purple-haired man ponders thoughtfully. Could it truly be possible that they have found a brand new trading partner instead? Or have they already sold the ore to Willowtown already? Or perhaps could it be the revenge of the fallen dragon itself? For now it remains unclear to us, but this is definitely the brainchild of that foolish and selfish fourth prince. They were now riding on rented horses, slowly making their way along the road by the river, just as they began to consider the possibility that they had been cheated out of their resources. At that very moment a ship from Willowtown sailed by on the water. Willowtown clear for all to see even with the naked eye. On board, precious resources were visible. Petrov nodded knowingly. His heart sinking, he realized then, the Lord had made his move much earlier than he had initially assumed. If he has already begun trading with the downstream cities, then they clearly need to change their negotiation strategy. Hoping for a monopoly, as it was before this time, is certainly not a wise move. But then the envoy suddenly pondered. Since the distance between Willowtown and Border Town is quite significant, this in turn would lead to increased transportation costs for sure. Therefore the first price they offered initially is likely 1.5 times lower than the market price. It is quite clear that since Roland did not bring the ore to the usual spot, this means that he has no intention of trading it for mere low-grade wheat. However, factoring in the transportation costs to other cities, we might just negotiate a discount of around 30%. The moment they arrived at the Grand Castle, a modest feast awaited them, ready to be enjoyed. The red-haired man was quite taken by surprise by the sight of two small wooden sticks so unusual, with which, it seemed, one was meant to eat, and the hero quite deftly and quickly wielded them. So he felt a strong desire to try and pick something up from his very own plate. But as the food kept slipping right off his sticks, the ambassador felt a surge of awkwardness and discomfort. Meanwhile, his younger brother casually pointed out that these eating utensils were much simpler and cheaper to make, compared to typical table cutlery. Thus, because when they were in use, even among those not from his own lands, people completely stopped worrying about spreading various diseases, getting into their mouths while they eagerly consumed their meals. Using unwashed hands, Petrov shrewdly noted to himself, "This fourth prince is truly an astonishing figure, quite remarkable." As the majestic sun began its gentle descent, bathing the entire castle in a breathtaking golden radiance, Roland prepared himself to savor a delightful dessert, following their truly exquisite dinner, during which a wonderfully pleasant atmosphere was skillfully maintained, and he deliberately refrained from discussing the trade of minerals, as he deemed it utterly inappropriate for the moment. But the crucial topic simply had to be addressed eventually, and so the ambassador began with a respectful "Your Highness, according to our previous solemn agreement, today was set to be the day of our grand exchange of precious ore for much-needed provisions and food. Yet I saw no goods whatsoever at the harbor's loading dock." Carefully setting down his wooden sticks, Roland simply offered a solemn nod. Unfortunately, the mine situated on the north side of the mountain has tragically collapsed. Based on our current schedule for clearing the massive debris, Our people will only be able to resume mining operations next year. The mine actually collapsed. For a fleeting moment, Petrov was utterly flabbergasted by this news, a mere coincidence. However, he very quickly came to the realization that there was no genuine need for him to lie at all. Otherwise, if he were indeed lying, one could easily go and personally verify this claim. So, the determined man then inquired quite pointedly, "But what about all the ore that you managed to extract over the last 2 crucial months?" Liam simply shrugs his shoulders and says that the supply they received was far less than what was promised in their standard agreement. This paltry amount will not even be enough to sustain the people in our struggling border town. He then turns and asks with a challenging gaze, "Mr. Ambassador Petrov, you surely must recall and understand what unfolded 2 years ago during the brutal demon months." Of course, Petrov knew this truth all too well. Back then, the chilling cold persisted for a grueling 4 months. As a result, a staggering 1 in every 2 residents in the settlement Liam courageously manages right now perished tragically from the relentless hunger. This time, the coming winter will be even more severe, the prince declared with a heavy, despairing sigh. Considering the meager amount they barely managed to procure, it will scarcely last them even 2 short months. He has tirelessly strived with every fiber of his being to support his people, but he fears they simply will not survive this brutal winter. Therefore, this outdated and rigid trade system absolutely must be swiftly and completely reevaluated. The red-haired man gasped, his mouth agape in utter surprise. "I promise to implore the 6 noble families of Lanson Fortress to allocate a full month's worth of essential rations, ensuring they can endure and survive this harsh winter season. And then later, once their production fully recovers, they will faithfully repay every single thing." However, our hero Liam strongly disagrees and declares outright that if they do not sell their valuable ore to another party, then they will not be forced to slowly and agonizingly work off their debt. For instance, Willowtown stands ready to purchase their minerals for pure gold, and simultaneously they offer to sell wheat, cheese, bread, honey, and countless other goods at an excellent market price, in stark contrast to their current arrangements with Lanson Fortress. Trading with Willowtown is undeniably far more advantageous. But Liam then adds with a slight concession that he is willing to slightly back down from his earlier statements, just long enough to engage with the ambassador in a discussion, as he ponders and questions the situation. And even if Petrov agrees to allocate a month's worth of rations, does he possess even the slightest authority to decide for other noble families? Liam quickly deduces and realizes as well that Petrov is in fact a prominent member of the esteemed Honeysuckle family. He reaches this astute conclusion based purely on the distinctive family emblem he wears. Let us assume for a moment that his own family would indeed agree. But could he ever truly persuade Duke Gorain and the other powerful families to reach a mutual and binding agreement? Would he truly dare to make such a final, definitive decision? Right here, right now, with immediate urgency. The ambassador fell silent, for the 4th prince had spoken nothing but the absolute truth. A wave of worry washed over him, fearing not only the opposition of the 5 powerful families, but even his own father would never agree to such a risky plan. He had actually tried to reason with him before, arguing with conviction that the new ruler of the frontier city would never be willing to exchange precious minerals and rare gemstones for mere food and simple bread. The red-haired prince had suggested purchasing their goods at a price 30 below the standard market rate, as even then they would still manage to secure a very substantial profit for themselves. But the bald lord had confidently brushed aside all those concerns, declaring that Roland was nothing more than a stubborn pig. What would he even know about conducting complex trade negotiations? Such an utter idiot would surely never think to change their trade route to a more lucrative alternative. Yet in this very moment, standing right here regardless of the ultimate outcome, he simply had to take this immense risk and deal with his father and the other influential families. Upon his triumphant return, in the end, the red-haired prince finally makes his bold decision and offers to purchase their raw and shimmering gemstones at a price point 30 below the standard market value. He confidently asserts that this proposal must be far more advantageous than anything Willowtown could ever possibly offer. The man then further emphasizes a crucial point, that this city is located extremely far away, making it incredibly difficult to reach during the dreaded demon months. And along the treacherous path, many dangers could easily surface. However, he abruptly stops mid-sentence, which is quite curious, as the brunette, Helix, urges him to complete his thought. Helix then points out the inherent dangers that could very easily arise along the arduous journey. Suddenly, a chilling realization dawns upon him, that his words had sounded exactly like a sinister threat, causing his heart to pound wildly in his chest, like a frantic drum. Strangely enough, Roland did not fly into a fit of rage. Instead, he let out a hearty laugh and calmly declared, "Esteemed ambassador, you must have completely misunderstood something important. I have no intention of ever leaving my beloved city." Following that unexpected declaration, the panic instantly vanished, replaced by a profound sense of sheer bewilderment. What in the world was he even talking about? The prince then continued to elaborate on his startling statement, that Border Town would no longer be just an outpost, but would become a full part of the Grey Castle Kingdom. And he hoped the ambassador wouldn't think he was crazy, because right now, the foundations of the walls under construction could already be seen. The red-haired Ambassador Petrov's jaw nearly hit the floor. Our hero, Prince Roland, nodded firmly. Yes, absolutely, it's all true. Between the northern side of the mountain and the Scale River, I'm building a wall 5 meters high. With it, we'll be able to stop the demons before they even arrive. In Petrov's mind, memories of a lavish banquet suddenly surfaced, where the nobles mocked the prince for starting construction right before winter began. Everyone laughed at his foolishness, but the ambassador assumed it was just rich people joking with each other. He never imagined that Roland was truly serious about building this wall. Even now, he still couldn't understand how this was possible. Constructing something on such a massive scale would take at least several years. Besides, Border Town didn't even have enough workers. Yet, forcing himself not to show his confusion, he maintained his composure and said, "I will remember what you said, Your Highness."
Prince Roland.
"I will return to the fortress immediately and try to negotiate everything. But regarding the walls you mentioned, please allow me to see them first."
Roland replied.
Then added with a smile, "But there's no need to rush. Let's have dessert first. After all, it's never too late to begin. Isn't that right, Ambassador Petrov?" After Petrov departed, the hero returned to his chambers, only to be startled by an unfamiliar female voice coming from behind him. She said, "I didn't expect the ambassador from the fortress."
Лансон вернется восвояси с простреленным хвостом.
It looks like the fourth prince has a few aces tucked away. And that wraps up this thrilling recap. Thank you for watching. If you are eager to dive into part 3 right away, you can support me on Boosty to gain instant access. Also be sure to subscribe to my Telegram channel, and until next time.